Okay, dude, finally. Okay. Finally, we're doing it. Okay, so let me pull up the stuff we talked about. But you were telling me about your dad. So your dad wasn't. Your dad was never a Christian. Like your dad was never. What is he?
So he follows the Seventh Day Adventist Church.
Okay.
The chapter that's in Corona. And there is a sister church that is here in Santa Ana.
Okay.
But no, we grew up Catholic. And my
Catholic or Catholic?
We actually grew up Catholic,
Okay.
where we would go to mass every Sunday when we were kids, and we did our first communion, and we did obviously like our baptism. That's the beginning. And then when my parents separated, and he met his new wife, she belonged to that church, and she is the one that started to encourage him to join her, and they slowly built a foundation there, like as a couple.
Your parents split up in high school?
Yes, I was 15.
And then your dad started going to church at what time?
I don't know like exactly what time. I was probably like 17 or 18. I know that by the time that I was in college, he was already going, because I was going to UC Riverside, and he would often come visit me after service.
Oh, okay.
Because he would even go like in the middle of the week. Like I think they offer a service like on Wednesdays. And stuff
I remember you telling me like your dad would go visit.
Yeah, so he would randomly visit me in the middle of the week, because he would drive up for their evening mass, and then after mass he would meet me for dinner, or stuff like that. Or Saturdays he would go to mass, pick me up at my dorm, and then drive me home.
So was your dad the one who pushed, like, encouraged you to go to church, or how did you become this new you? Because you weren't like this.
No. Well, okay.
So I think we start from the beginning. Who were you before, and then
who
the events that came out to be now? Yeah.
So I have always been a very free person. And I have always had a very deep faith, because I grew up.
What do you mean by free? What does that mean?
Okay, so I've thought about it a lot.
Okay.
And I feel like when you're, or at least when I was a teenager, and when I was going through like my early 20s and my rebellious phase, I had this thing where I was like, I don't want anybody to tell me what to do. Unfortunately, including the Bible.
That's not how the way works.
It's kind of like what your father-in-law said about, it's not that I don't understand it, it's that it doesn't let me do what I want to do.
Oh, okay.
Like it not in a bad way, but like, I was partying excessively, I was drinking excessively, I was not going to mass, Catholic or any other, I wasn't praying. Forget reading the Bible. I was in this like, I am me and I'm gonna live my life, and I was working a lot, and I was just so deep into a society that our everyday life kind of turns into, that monotony of everyday life, of getting up, going to work, getting off work, having drinks with friends, going to school.
This is your 20s, right?
Yeah, my 20s.
We just turned 30, but like...
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so we're 30 now.
Yeah.
So this is a decade ago.
Yeah.
I wasn't a mom.
Okay.
I was in college.
Okay.
I was working part-time jobs that I never really took seriously.
Yeah, when we were young, what kind of jobs can we get when we're young?
Yeah, so I was trying to live that like young, wild, free life that is advertised so easily on social media, on shows, nightclubs,
dinner,
dorm rooms.
Yeah. You had a dorm?
Yes.
Yeah.
I lived in my dorm. I lived in an apartment off campus my second year. And it's just this lifestyle that if you don't partake, you feel so out of tune and you don't fit in. And for it's not even about fitting in, it's just like it's even hard to find like a partner for your class because there's nothing in common, you know? So with my parents' divorce and with so many things that had kind of happened that had hurt my feelings and, you know, traumas that we go through as kids that are nobody's fault, but they just happen.
Happened to you.
That, yeah, they happened to me. And I just wasn't in a place where I wanted to pray. I just didn't feel that connection.
I'm assuming, because I know so also my parents were Catholic.
Yeah.
Right? And so they like, Nico, like, go to the bed and you go on your knees and you pray.
And you pray, right? And you do your, like, you pray your rosaries.
Yeah,
and your,
exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming the same thing as you, right? Like, you have some kind of acknowledgement.
Yes,
right,
and
okay, but you never like
did it as an adult.
Yeah,
no.
it's you're there, but like
yeah. Like it was in the back of my mind, and I would think about it every so often. But then I would be like, but if I do that, then I'm not gonna be able to do this or that or you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And my babysitter when I was little, before I started kinder, was very deeply involved in the Catholic Church. So she and I would go to mass every single day. And I was like those kids that would help on the altar.
Okay.
Not necessarily because I had gone to school because I was so little, but just because I was so little and she was so involved that they would let me participate.
You were cute. that was it. That was.
I mean, I don't know how to say that.
You were just up because you were cute.
Yeah, they really just let me because they were like, "Oh my gosh, she's so cute. She's little and she wants to hold the hostias and they didn't let me hold the wine, but but like I was just there, you know. And so some of my first core memories as a child are in church.
Church events or
no,
the church service?
At church. Okay. And not even necessarily service, but like either before or after service, when my babysitter would go and help to either set up the service or to clean up after the service. And so some of my first memories are like running up and down the main aisle and like dipping my hand in the holy water and just like these random things, hiding in the confession room.
So I've been in the Catholic Church, but I was like 5'3".
You were little.
I mean, now that sticks. I only remember going, because you said core memories, that's what I'm asking you.
Yeah.
Because I remember after like the service, there was a tamales out there.
Yeah, and the champurrado and the food. The food was so good.
Like, I'll go to church, but at the end, it was like a reward for me.
Yeah, like you got a snack.
Exactly.
You got a snack. Yeah, and if you didn't behave, there was no snack for you, sir.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I always grew up like that, and then on Sundays we would get up and we would go to church as a family, and we did our first communion and all of that, and then that kind of dwindled. I think when I like started high school. Because we were so busy. I was cheering. We were at football games. I started cross country. Like, I had, good times. Great times. But it just made the schedule so hard that I think that my parents just kind of decided, like, okay, I can go to church or I can go to Target, but I can't do both. And eventually, like, we're going to run out of toilet paper.
What are the most? Yeah. Logistically speaking.
Speaking, like, I need to go to Target because we need hand soap. We need those things, you know? Yeah. And it just became so hard. And then my dad had opened his business.
Oh, at that time?
At that time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, he had opened it when I was like 12 or 13, but that's when it was taking off.
Gotcha. Oh, okay.
So he was super busy working.
Yeah.
And it just became routine to not go.
Yeah.
And eventually they divorced and life just changed so much after they divorced. And we really just never went back.
I remember that sophomore year.
Yeah.
I remember how you were. Right? It wasn't good to see.
It was because it was painful.
Yeah, but I think it was more than I would see your parents divorced, but there was more to you. You had health issues.
Yes, that I still have, but I just manage them.
So you don't go to the doctor no more.
I do. I see a nephrologist. So when I was 2. My left kidney stopped growing.
Okay.
And so she's not dead, but she doesn't work well.
Gotcha.
She doesn't do much for me. And my right kidney,
It's getting tired of your crap.
It's getting tired, yes. By now, my right kidney has said you need to stop drinking and you need to stop eating sodium.
Yes.
Which is, again, changes that I have made now that I'm 30. But back then, I was like, well, I have one good kidney. And in high school, like, I wasn't a big party girl in high school because I wasn't allowed.
No, you were a good student, dude.
Yes, I was a good student. I graduated with my 4.0 GPA. I was top 10% of my class.
Did you really?
Yeah, I was top 10% of our class. And
no, I
just remember. Well, I just remember because I had like I looked at a graduation picture not too long ago, and I had one of those like ribbons. Not the Avid one. No, not the Avid one. Like the cords.
Oh, the honor then. You made honor roll. You were.
Well, I did make honor roll.
4.0.
Okay, you're getting the Virgo in you.
Nah, dude. You know what?
Relax.
This is crap.
Relax. Okay, I was smarter. It's fine. It's okay. You actually went to college and you graduated. I did not.
That's hard work.
I went and I didn't graduate. So you know what?
Okay,
it doesn't matter.
Go on that. Yeah, go on that. Why did you? Because you were in high school. All this stuff happened to you, right?
Yeah, but I was still a great student. School was one of those things that like helped me keep that normalcy of life. Yes, it was a safe haven.
Mine too.
You know, where I was like, okay, all these things are weird at home, but like I can still come to school and
my friends are here.
I have friends here, and yeah. School was always like a constant, you know? And then, but I do have to say that my mom never let us abandon prayer. Like, we stopped going to church, but she would always say, like, persínense, denle gracias a Dios, pie derecho. Like, she always reminded us to thank God and to be grateful. And she always did her best. And then as she evolved, she started doing a lot of research and she started growing her own spiritual practice. So I've never really felt like I'm without guidance. It's just I have made such horrible choices in life. And they're not as bad as some people, granted. You know, like they're not hard drugs and homelessness.
But you weren't going the route. You weren't going.
But I wasn't going the right way. I just was not going the way that I was like, wait a minute.
Can I? You know, I never asked you. But can I ask you? Yeah, hopefully. If not, I can know what to do, bro.
Okay.
Obviously, the friends we had have always been. They're good people.
Yeah.
Right? Good people.
Good base of, yeah. We all come from like good homes.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Thank you. And I didn't do drugs.
Yeah.
But I had a home that I didn't want to be that person at home.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
Nor drink. But you know what? Yeah, once in 2021 I started drinking, right? But not like
but not excessively
right?
to the point where it like ruined your life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, what made you, knowing everything that you've been taught and knowing yourself, right? The little Danielle in you, what made you go into it? You started with weed and then you started with more, or did you?
No. It's just weed and alcohol.
Okay.
Weed and alcohol.
Okay.
I have never done more because.
Did you ever want to?
I always had it accessible. I was a young, pretty girl.
Yeah.
I could get free drugs wherever I wanted.
I told my mom that too. She's like, there's no drugs in Scott. I'm like, Mom, the next guy next to my locker has it.
Yeah.
You know, it's easy to get.
It's not that it's hard to find. It's also when people tell you that people will offer you their drugs, that's a lie. Nobody wants to give you free drugs.
Yeah.
People that do drugs, they want their drugs to themselves.
Yes.
But anyways, I never did it because there was such a high rate of addiction in my family. My grandpa died an alcoholic.
Okay.
My mom's brother passed away in the streets of Tijuana, completely lost to drug addiction.
Okay.
He was married, he had 2 beautiful children, and he threw it all away. He at some point reached sobriety and he became a pastor.
Okay.
And then he relapsed and he was never able to recover.
After that?
Yeah, after that. He was sober for 7 years. And then after my grandpa passed away, it was just very traumatizing for him. And that's a whole other story. But it was very traumatizing for him. And he just started using again. And he never recovered. And so they found him, and it took a long time to identify him. Because when they found him, he was already decomposing. Like he was already in a fossa común. That's like when there's unclaimed bodies and they have to bury them.
Yeah.
That's how we found him, because they typically will take a picture. Yeah. They take a picture and they upload it to a website.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever you are looking for missing people, they give you that website and they say, well,
Are they,
if there's a chance you think they could be dead, you have to look there.
Mm-hmm.
And we
what
found
a
him.
way to find out.
And we found him.
What a way to find out.
Yeah. And so that's a whole other story of spiritual connection. But my aunts found him and they slowly made arrangements to, he had died in TJ, so it was going to be way too expensive to bring his body this way. Mm-hmm. So we all flew to Mexico to take care of the services and everything. And I was like 12. So that's a very impressionable age. I was like 11 or 12.
It's like back to back.
I lost my grandpa in April.
Okay. April of when you were 12?
When I was 12, yeah,
okay.
2005.
Okay.
I lost my grandpa in April. I lost my great grandma in August. And we found my uncle in September. He had passed away in July.
Wow.
So we lost very significant people to our family.
Yeah.
In that year. That was a very hard year, and it took a long time for my family to recover from that. So for me, it was like, I never want to end up like that. You know, I never necessarily envisioned or pictured a big family or, you know, things like that. But I knew that no matter what I did in life, I didn't want to end up like that.
Hence you being a good student.
Hence working really hard, trying to be a good student, trying to reach these goals, trying to do better, to help my parents. You know, they had given me such a good example. My dad has never been an alcoholic or a drug user, neither my mom. We always had a very clean home growing up, so I wanted to do better for them. You know, honor my parents, if you will. If you will.
Did you know that that's the only, I think, the 10 Commandments, right? I don't know, right?
Uh-huh.
That's the only one
that comes with the promise.
I didn't know that, you know, and I was like, oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, honor your parents and God will honor you.
Yeah. Or living a long life, or I don't know how it goes.
Yeah. It's in there. You will live. It's in there. It's in the Bible. I just actually heard it. Oh, I can't remember I just heard it.
But yeah, something.
But yes, you live a long, prosperous life because you honor your parents.
Yeah.
And they made you, so he made you. You know what I mean? So, sorry, we're all over the place. But yeah, so that's why even in my 20s, when I was in the depths of my party phase and I was in and out of like rapper studios and photo shoots and mingling with drug dealers and with people that were using, I was always like, no, thank you. I have my weed. I'm good. No, thank you. You know, because I don't know. Weed chills you out, you know. For me, it never gave me any sort of negative trip. I never had a negative experience.
I don't know. I'm just,
I never had a negative experience other than like getting hungry. So, or my contacts would get dry sometimes. But I knew that anything else would eventually lead to a negative experience. Fast forwarding, I realized that the negative experience of marijuana use is that it's so expensive. There is so much money to be saved in sobriety. Children. But we can't go back.
No.
So we move forward.
Yeah,
we make different choices.
Yeah.
But that was the core reason for me. I always knew that I did not want to try cocaine. I had no interest for meth or heroin. I've always been I've always given like golden retriever energy. So I'm not one for downers. So I don't like to feel sad. I don't like it. So it wasn't for me. So that's why I never did more. But I was partying a lot, you know. I would get off work. I would hit up like my ex at the time, and he was a photographer, so he was very involved in nightlife. And so after work, you know, like that was kind of the routine, was to either like meet up at the studio, or even if we met up, eventually we would end up there, you know, at some point in the night. I was getting home at like 1, 2, 3 in the morning. I was getting up for work at 5 in the morning or 6 in the morning. I was very dedicated to my job. So I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't eating very well. I was drinking a lot of coffee, a lot of vodka, and I was smoking a lot of weed. Naturally, I was a lot skinnier too. So all of these choices would lead me down some darker paths eventually.
Okay.
Obviously, he and I had a terrible breakup. It did not end well. And that's when I started a spiritual journey. A small one.
Okay.
A small.
Yeah. You weren't any better than I was. You know. Like, just calm down.
Yeah.
But it's like, this is why it exists, right? So for like people like you and me who are like from here and are
Trying
like,
to make better choices.
where are we going, and what does it look like? Because every time a podcast exists, or you know, some people are talking about it.
Yeah.
They're like pastors. They're like people already.
They're so deep in their faith, and
Exactly.
they have strengthened their knowledge, and they're like they can spit you a quote directly from the Bible.
Yeah, they're so
they can almost tell you the page it's on, you know?
Yeah, so that's cool. Like, and one of them, like, I want to be that person.
Yeah.
But
my
until
dad
then,
and my stepmom are kind of there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So, okay, we'll bring them next time.
Yeah.
We'll see if we can.
Yeah.
And but what I'm asking is like every time I talk about like, and the people already deep in their faith, it's like, oh, because I heard God, or like escuché, or like I felt something, right? And
for me, it was my daughter.
Nice. So you felt something. Like
when I had her.
Did you like okay, so like did you feel it, or did you like realize it, like in your mind? Did you like, oh, I gotta do this?
It was so solid. So my pregnancy, I was really sad because I knew that after she came, I was no longer going to be this party girl, you know, because you can't go party when you're kid. I mean, you can.
But
it wasn't the type of, when I made the choice to be a mom, I made the choice to be a good mom, like your mom, like my mom, that were there, that were in it, that did homework with us and listened to our petty problems, and, you know, a mom.
Yes.
So all through my pregnancy, I feel like I was kind of grieving the person that I had become, knowing that once my baby came, I could no longer be that person. It just wasn't an option.
Oh, okay.
It just wasn't an option to go back.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, like after I had my daughter, I did still have like a drinking thing, you know, where like it wasn't a problem. It wasn't like I wouldn't get up and have a drink, you know.
Yeah.
Because I was breastfeeding and, you know, all of that. But after like 3 months, I think it is, that, you know, your doctor gives you the okay to work out again and all that. You know, my man and I would go out on a date and I would have a couple drinks, and it would kind of get to the point where I would feel a little tipsy or I would feel a little drunk.
Yeah, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah, and that, I felt like it was okay because I was with my partner, I was going home to my baby, but then we would get home and she would cry in the middle of the night. And I didn't have the same alertness to get up, or I would get up obviously, but I didn't feel as alert.
Did you feel more like a drag?
Yes.
Yes.
I feel like I'm so tired. I feel almost a little hungover. I'm dehydrated. Like I do not want to be up. And so my attitude towards the wake up, instead of being like, what a blessing, my daughter is hungry, she's growing properly, I would be like, why are you up right now? You know?
Yeah.
And so I hadn't smoked anymore because I was breastfeeding and I had already made the choice not to, you know? But the drinking. So then I was like, okay, this is the next step. And I knew that all of that was going to come because the minute that I pushed my daughter out and I heard her cry, everything became very real. It became real that I had a baby.
And the screaming and the crying.
And
right?
I had this person who was willing to uproot their entire life to be my partner and to love us and to support us. Nothing is perfect. Nothing ever is.
Oh, you have to work on it. Yeah.
We work on it every single day. But we always try to go to bed. Even if we're mad at each other, we understand that there's going to be a solution and it's going to be fine. You know? We don't, you know.
There's
You're married, you know.
There's there's a clip. You've probably seen this, but it's like viral. A clip of like Tom Hanks with Jamie Foxx and the guy from Transformers. I forget his name. Yeah, it's someone else. It's like four guys. And Tom Hanks is like saying, you know what I wish I would have learned when I was younger, right? And they're like, well, what is it? Like, this too shall pass.
Oh, this too shall pass has been my mom's favorite quote since. Oof. Yes.
You know,
This too shall pass. Dude, I almost like want to tattoo it right here. Yes.
I love it because the way he explained it. Because you know once.
And see, that's what I mean by non-biblical things that come to help us in certain times.
Is that what you mean? Oh, so
I'm not saying that they're modern prophets, but I'm just saying that there are certain things that interject in our lives that may not be from the Bible, but God put them there.
Oh, interesting. Like, if you're not going to listen to me here, listen to me this way.
Yeah, like, oh, you're not going to read the Bible. Fine. This too shall pass. Like a whisper. Like when we're not listening to our parents, but they still like when we don't want to eat breakfast, but then they sneak a peanut butter sandwich in our backpack.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like,
and at the end you're grateful for it?
Yeah. And then you're like, oh my God, I was so hungry. Thank you. Yeah. Exactly. Anyways, I'm sorry I interrupted what you were saying.
No, but that was it. It's just the whole moment of like, if you're when you're drinking and you're like waking up in the middle of the night and you're like, why?
Yeah. And I wasn't like resentful or anything, but it was just that moment of like, oh, why is this happening?
Yes, yeah.
I want to be sleeping.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think I know it's not bad.
No.
I would say, right? Because it's a total, I think, human response, you know. But what do I know?
It is. It's that part of humanity that makes us imperfect, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's also the parts of us that we can choose to change.
And so you did it.
And so I did, yes, because I started following like a mom account on Instagram, and she has like a faith-based channel, and she's always talking about how her faith helps her in motherhood and in marriage, and since then I've actually heard other people say it, but she was the first person that I had heard say it, and it was shifting your mindset. Now, granted, my mom has also said this, but we don't always listen to them. So, other than my mom, this was the first time that I had heard this. And she said, like, just shift that mentality. Like, yes, there's 1,000 dishes in the sink.
Oh, that one, yes.
Thank God.
Yes.
That we had food in our belly.
That you have thumbprints all over the walls.
You have thumbprints all over the wall. Thank God your kids feel safe in your home to have a free childhood.
Yes. Yeah, I seen the video. I love that video. I went to my mom's house yesterday.
Yeah.
And so I mean, I'm like, for me, this is all new to me, right? So I'm like, Mom, this is what I read, or so I saw a video.
And then they look at you and they're like, duh.
They're like, yeah, exactly.
Because they've been doing it for 30 years.
They're like, how cute, you know?
Yeah. They're like, oh, you found it. That's great.
It's just so.
I say it to my dad, and he kind of gives me that look.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
It's funny because like my uncle was like, well, like you should, like if you went to school, then you should somehow like acknowledge God, right? And I'm like, that's not the issue that I have. Like I know there's a God, I just don't accept. There's a story in the, I don't know if you're familiar, there's a story in the Bible, and I forget the name. I think it's Abraham. That God tells him to, hey, go sacrifice your son on top of a mountain.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Go sacrifice your son. Yeah.
And so during that time, my mom was going to church. It's like high school, like middle of like college, and she told me a story, right? And I was like, I got so mad. I was like, Mom, what kind of God does that?
Yeah.
What kind of God tells you to go and sacrifice your own son, and your only child, right?
Yeah.
I mean, whatever, if it's not your only child or not, but like your kid.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and he did it. He was gonna go. He took his son to the mountain. He was about to kill him. God said no, right?
Yeah.
And my mom said to me, she's like, it's because of obedience. I'm like, what, Mom? What kind of, you know?
She's like, I'm teaching you a lesson about obedience. Yes. And you're like, this is not.
That is not okay. I think you're missing a huge point here, right?
And okay, I'm glad that we touched this.
Yeah,
but yes.
let me because it was like a sudden like, oh, duh, right?
Yeah.
So perspective, right, or the other side of the coin, right? I didn't think about it because I'm so clouded by
your teenage thoughts,
my anger, my doubt,
your resistance to be
resentment toward my family, you know, because there was like a lot of changes happened. So I was like, hey, I don't want to do this, right?
Yeah.
And when was that? Like that was like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It was like more than 10 years ago.
More.
It just came to me, and it was and this guy that I follow on Instagram, and he's like, the story of Abraham, right? It's like you just like it's like the first thing I opened up, right?
I love when that happens. Yeah, that happens to me. Yeah.
I opened it up, it's like, oh, and I like this guy. The way he's talking is just so eloquent, like spoken. And so he's like, the reason why Abraham did this is because God, he said, God will never ask you to do something that He won't do Himself.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that Abraham's story happened before Jesus. So he asked someone if he was willing to kill his own son, and then he was willing to.
Yeah.
And then God said, no, it's okay, I'll do it.
Yeah. And then He sent His Jesus.
Yeah. And I was like, oh. I got
perspective.
Yeah, perspective. And knowledge, I guess, at that point, too. So it was just, it was, for me, it was like,
it's mind-blowing. Yeah, you kind of sit there and you're like, Because, okay, another reason I had kind of fought off the Bible was, or religion in general, was because I always said I have faith in God. I do not trust certain religions. Just religion in general.
Yeah.
Because of all the reasons that we know.
Okay.
So that was always another big one for me. And one of those big ones was, why, like, this is so outdated. Like, women are so independent. Why do we have to be submissive? Like, why do we have to stay home with the kids? We can work. We can.
That's a good point. Okay.
You know, like why do we have to be submissive? Like, why?
Because you took it.
I took it in a way where it was
a dictionary,
not empowering women.
Yes.
It was taking away from our voice. It was taking away, and recently I've come across some stuff that says it's not that you have to be submissive to your husband. It's that you and your husband are a partnership, and the same way that we do a school project and different people do different things, in order for your home to succeed, for your kids to have the balance they need someone that's going to be the breadwinner, because obviously you need money to survive. Mm-hmm. But they also need someone that's going to be nurturing. And genetically, that is how God made us as women. That was our role, to be nurturing. And so it's not necessarily...
Did it bother you before? Or is it something you feel like, okay, I
It's not that it bothers me, it's just that I was like, why? Like, it's not equal. You know, like, why can't men be nurturing if they want to be, and why can't women be the breadwinners? Like, I'm all for, like, stay-at-home dads. If they're cooking and they're cleaning and they're doing the homework and it works for them that their wife works and pays the bills, go for it. Okay. You know, whatever makes your marriage work. But then I started thinking, like, I saw something and it gave me perspective. It's not necessarily that you have to be submissive. It's that when you're with the right person,
you tend to follow?
It comes naturally, and also they give you the space to be feminine, because their non-toxic masculinity just, it gives you this safety net. Mm-hmm. So, like, my husband was very blessed to find this new job. And it's allowed for me to spend a lot more time with Athena without having to worry about having a job. It's come with a lot of sacrifices. It's, you know, obviously we have a budget, we stick to it, all of that. But we're able to do it. And I was able to come into that femininity as the years have passed, because he allows me to be feminine. He does his duty as my partner, and he provides so that I can go to Home Goods and be like, oh my God, that's such a cute towel. I want that in my bathroom. But that's where that nesting comes in, you know, because when you are with someone and you don't feel like you are safe with them, like, if you don't work, yes, they might be working, but if you don't work, we're not going to be able to pay all the bills. And so you're forced to enter this masculine energy, because you're forced to provide. Essentially, you have to have this job, because if you don't, you guys will be homeless, and that's not the vibe when you have kids. You know. So I'm not saying that you have to make a lot of money to be a provider, you know, it's not what I'm saying, but what I'm saying is you allow your person that femininity, you know, like without having to worry necessarily about deep finances. Obviously, I can't go on shopping sprees. I don't have fancy things, you know, like we don't splurge very often, but we have everything we need. And that has allowed me to be at home and to treasure my time with my daughter. And obviously I cook and I clean and I take care of my home, but I'm not stressed about, oh my God, I have to get up and I have to cook and I have to clean before I go to work, and then I have to come home from work and I still have to do homework and I still have to do all these things. Like, no. I get up.
That's taken care of.
Yeah. I get up. Right now, Athena's 3. She's starting preschool, you know, she's doing like a little preschool program and stuff. So
it's good times, dude.
Yeah.
Good times.
So instead of having to get up at 5 a.m. and make sure I'm ready before she's up to get her ready, and like this rat race, we get up, we get ready for school, we go to school, we go to the park. I make sure that her brain is stimulated, her body is stimulated, and then we go home and we have lunch. And I do have my part-time right now at a daycare, because I do like to earn my little money, and I do like to have.
Well, it helps, yeah.
Yeah, it helps. It always helps.
Telling you not to go to work, right? Like.
Yeah, nobody's saying don't work. You know, it's good for us to have outlets. But if I lose that job, we're not gonna starve.
Or be.
Or like.
My car's not working, so I gotta, you know.
Yeah.
You can't buy this for like 3 months, you know.
Yeah. You know, like. And don't get me wrong, like, we have struggled. We have been there where we're like, how can we make $1 out of 10 cents right now? when Athena was smaller.
When you find out you didn't
and
know,
he
okay?
had a different job. Yeah. Yeah. When I transitioned from working my manager job to being at home to finding part-time, that worked for me and our schedule, all of those transitions, that was like a good 1.5 to 2 years where we were struggling.
Yeah, well, this is during COVID too, so that didn't help either.
Yeah, it didn't help. There was a lot going on in the world. But slowly with time, I gained trust in him, because no matter what, he always provided between the both of us or whatever. But when push came to shove, he provided. And so that allowed me to trust him, you know, and it built that trust of like, wow, it does not matter. Like, we are going to go through it, but we're going to go through it together.
I think there's a lot of, I mean, you gain wisdom, obviously, because of age and experience, right? But there's a lot of thoughts, right, that you take from other people that kind of clouds the definition, or what are you trying to say?
Yes.
And now that I coach my daughter's team, and everybody wants to be like, the captain of the soccer team, or like the leader, and I'm like, guys, you know, like we put the captains because they're more experienced, right? Like we have, and they talk more, right? But everybody wants to be the captain. I'm like, it's I think it's harder to follow than it is to lead sometimes. Yeah. Because like you were saying, like you have to trust, like, and it's like. That's already like a big deal in itself, right?
Yes.
That you're putting all this, your trust and I guess your faith in this person to get you out from whatever because not because you can't do it, but at the moment
you need help. You need
right?
help. We all need help at one point and another. And when we feel like that help comes from the immediate person that's right next to us, that is so much more strengthening than feeling like, wow, I have this person here, but I have to go talk to my coworker about it to feel better. That makes you so lonely. And that's, I think, that bridge where people are like, oh yeah, we've been married 20-30 years, but we're so lonely. And it's because there's that separation where you're together but you haven't grown together, you know. And that's where my partner and I, we try really hard, you know. Like, he's a big gamer. He loves his video games. I'm not. But I love to ask him about his game.
Mm-hmm.
I love to ask him what he's playing. I love to ask him
we love that.
what's going on.
Keep doing that. We love that. We love that.
Because
keep doing that.
He loves these like story-based games.
Okay.
And so he'll go into it and he'll tell me like, oh, it's because like we're trying to spread democracy on this planet.
Oh, Helldivers, got it.
And then he'll go into it and he'll explain his character and what he's doing and how he got there. And it brings him so much happiness
So it brings you
and peace that I love hearing it. Because I'm like, you go, dude. I don't know how to walk and aim at the same time.
I can barely walk that.
I can barely, yeah, exactly. I trip over myself humanly. But that's a part of his brain that's very developed. So that's great, you know? And so recently we purchased a game that we could play together.
Nice.
And it's a game, it's called It Takes Two, and I recommend it because it's a story of this married couple, and they're potentially going through a divorce, and they have to go through all these obstacles. And in going through all these obstacles, they start communicating with each other. And they have to communicate with each other to get through the obstacles. Otherwise, they don't get through it, and you have to start over.
Like a puzzle game? Is that it? Like
kind of like a puzzle game, yeah. And so he and I will play it, and I'm so bad at the game that he has to have so much patience with me and communication.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I'm like, you're yelling at me again. And he's like, I'm not yelling at you. I'm so sorry. I'm not yelling. It's just if you could position the camera and move at the same time, it would make it so much easier. And I'm over here like, I can't, I'm sorry. And I'm actually a lot better at the game because we've practiced. And now we have a good time when we play.
Good, yeah.
And he's like, hey, you did it, you know? There was a part when he went from PS4 to PS5, we kind of went back a level or something. So there was a couple of levels that we had to redo. Okay. Not the whole game, but just a little bit. And he was like, okay, this one was hard the first time. And I could tell that he was like dreading playing that part of the game. And I was like, okay, I'm not. And I was so stressed out. I was like, okay, you know how to do this, you know how to do this. And I did it. And we were both so happy with each other. Because he was like, you did it. And I was like, I did it. And it was like a moment. It was like a private moment between us that no one would really know. Because we play when everyone's asleep.
You know, it's when you're with your past relationships, you didn't smile like you do now.
I never smiled. I was always sad.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I mean, I smiled in pictures.
But this is like a nice. You have a nice smile. Like this is like natural, genuine. Yeah, happy.
Like I'm just happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's great to see, dude. It's great. It's great to see.
Yeah, I can honestly say that it has been a lot of things that has led me down this path of changing. But my number one reason was my daughter. And then after that, it's been feeling like God has taught me to be patient. And like I have learned to be more kind.
Because to yourself? To
just people in general. Because when you're not patient, sometimes it's not what you're saying, but it's how you're saying it.
Oh, my classic.
That comes off.
Just says how you say
it. It comes off so like rustico, like so rough.
Yeah.
You know, it could be as simple as Athena asking me, "Mommy," but not actually saying anything.
Yeah.
Just mom. Yeah, Athena. Mom. What happened, baby? Mom. And so by the third one, you're kind of like, yes, you know. But then you remember, like she's only 3. She can't have a conversation how you and I are having a conversation.
Yeah.
This is her way of trying to communicate with me.
Yes.
Like she's in the back seat, you're in the front seat. We are listening to Trolls again.
Nice. Yeah, I heard Frozen for 2 hours straight, from here to San Diego and then back. So 4 hours.
Oh, we have heard Trolls. Oh, I can tell you all the lyrics. I know Frozen too. I'm a good Elsa. But anyways, yeah, so that's her way of trying to have a conversation with me. And if she is met with, what, Athena?
Yeah.
So many times, she's going to stop doing that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to miss out on my child trying to have a conversation with me.
When then you're trying to repair, you're like, what happened?
And then you're going back trying to repair, like, wait, why don't you talk to me anymore? Well, because you're rude to me. And you're not trying to be rude. You, in your mind, are like, oh my goodness, why?
I saw that building 100 times.
I have seen it, honey.
I've seen this red car so many times.
So, yeah. But to them, it's special. And to them, it's new. And therefore, to you, it's special. And to you, it's new. Because that's, to me, the way that I show her my love. By being patient with her. So by the 5th, so I stopped saying, what Athena? Hi Athena, what happened? I make up random things. You know, she'll be like, Mom, what's going on, Space Cadet?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mom.
That was a good one.
Yeah, Mom. Yes, my magic mermaid.
Yes. I just, whatever.
Just whatever comes to mind at the moment, in the moment, whatever. Whatever's popular, if she's into Frozen, if she's, whatever, into Trolls, you know, whatever. Meeting them at their level. Because they're never going to be at that level ever again. And now I look back to pictures from a year ago and I'm like, oh my God, I didn't appreciate that enough. And I'm like, okay, wait, yes, I did. Yes, I did. But also, had I not, I would feel terrible about it. So I don't want to wake up in 18 years and she's 21 and we don't talk and we have no conversation and nothing to talk about. Because when she was 3 and 4 and 5, I would shut her down. Like, that's not cool. It may be that it goes that way anyways because of X, Y, and Z. But I'm going to try my hardest.
But it wasn't you.
It wasn't my intention. It was never my intention, you know? So, patience, I think, has been one of the biggest things that I have developed in my change of being a better person. Patience.
It's so I went to I don't know how to say it in English, but un encuentro.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of them.
Yeah, not too long ago, so I don't know how to say it in English. I don't know what the it's not a.
They're kind of like the harvest, like the revival, right?
It's not like what's it called? It's not Hang on.
Is it still recording?
I can barely even see you. Give me 1 second. Ah, nice. I can't do it flash. All right. Well, we can start this another time. But yeah, that's it, dude. Thank you for actually finally get this done.
I know this was fun too.
Yeah, awesome.
I really feel like we should do this like more.
Yeah. Well, when you're ready.
Yeah.
When you're ready, now you can put me on the.
And put you on the mic.
On the hot seat. Yeah.
Yeah. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, it's
I feel like we just kind of had a long conversation.
It's good. I mean, sometimes you know, it's not
the structure necessarily. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't want to be like, do you believe? You know, like it's not about that. So it's like it's more
about
like
the journey.
The journey. That's it.
It's about the journey.
Yeah,
and how I went from being like a straight A college bound teenager to like messing it all up with my bad choices, getting kicked out of school, partying, wrong relationships, right relationships.
Do you see that? Obviously, we can't see you now, but like
you can hear me.
We can still hear you. Looking back,
yeah.
Do you understand why it happened?
Yes.
Interesting.
I do.
Okay.
I do, because if I would have finished college, and I would have gone to med school, and I was a doctor, I would have probably never met my man.
Yeah.
I would have maybe had children, but it wouldn't be Athena.
Yeah.
And I would have a much bigger career to give up, and that would probably make it harder to give it up. Resentment
will grow.
Would grow to this child, because if I did give it up, wow, I worked so hard for nothing. Not for nothing, but like the mentality.
I see what you mean. Yes.
Yeah, you worked so hard for this goal, and then you had kids, and you had to give it up, and and then when you're in medicine, like that career waits for nobody. Mm-hmm. You know, you're not going to come back in 5 years and they're going to be like, oh yeah, here we are. You know, like no, everything's evolving constantly. But because I didn't finish school, and because I loved my job and I worked really hard to get it, but it's not something that necessarily required my degree. It required experience. Mm-hmm. but not necessarily the degree that I was going for. And that job allowed me to maintain the friendships with you guys and to keep my life. And then I met my man through Brian, through our other friend. And so had all of these connections been severed, I would have never met him. I would have never had Athena. I would have never gone through this journey that has been so hard.
Did you?
And painful at times.
Did you? That's probably the last thing I'd say. My mom was always like, so was your mom, right?
It's always
your mom.
Our moms.
So was your mom. Because we had people around you.
Yeah.
Right? And our friends they're not bad. They're not bad people. Right?
No.
They're good foundation people, right?
Yeah.
But there's other people that come to your life, right?
They come and they go.
They come and they go.
They come and they go.
And I'm just you kind of let go of the bad people, but like the good ones that came in for however short it might have been. And I'm like, oh mom, yeah, well this like that friend she was Christian or he was Christian too, like, and they're doing this now, And my mom told me one day, it's like, did you realize? And like not your friends, because at that time we weren't like in this right now.
Mm-hmm.
But did you know the people you just told me, like the people who were always like, hey, like, come to church with me.
Mm-hmm.
I have the CD for you. Here, talk about this with me. And it's like multiple people, and it's like, did you know, right? And then for me, it's like it's hard to understand, but like that was like, well, that's God talking to you, and you you just said no, seriously.
That was God trying to be like, come on.
Yeah, and I, was like, oh, well, mom, I didn't like during that time I was just a kid. I was just like, oh, they're my friends, and then that's cool for them, but like, that's
it's not for me,
Yeah.
I met a mentor when I was 18, or maybe 19. I had maybe 20 actually, because I had gotten kicked out of school already, so I was maybe like 20. And I was looking for a job because when I got kicked out, I came home and my parents were like, you need to pay rent or you need to leave because you're not a student, you have dishonored us, all that. And so I found a job. It was so hard, but I literally went door to door trying to find a job. And I walked into Radio Shack, of all places. I knew nothing about it. I didn't even know what they sold.
That's old.
I didn't even know what they sold, but I walked in and I was like, girl, if you'll hire me, whatever.
I remember you told me about this. Yeah.
So I met this wonderful Filipino man. And his name was Ezra. And
that's a cool name.
Yeah. He's the only one. And so he was very dedicated to his church and his faith, and he was a single father, and he was going through it. Like, it was hard,
Yeah.
But he was making it work, and he worked very hard. And I think that that's one of my angels that God had kind of sent for me on this earth, because he guided me so much. And through my own actions, I messed up that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But he taught me so much about God, about life. I could talk to that man about anything. And he, at a time when I had no paternal figure because I wasn't speaking to my dad.
Mm-hmm.
Life was just really hard at the time. I'd gotten kicked out of school. I wasn't talking to my dad. Life at home with my mom was hard. She was obviously unhappy with my choices. I don't blame her now, but back then I just felt like
you were free. You were.
Yes, I was being free. At that time, I just felt like I had no one to turn to, even though I did, but I just felt like that. He gave me a job. He hired me with like no experience, and he was like, "Why should I hire you?" And I was like, "Because I really need a job, and I'm gonna show up because I really need a job."
Yeah.
He was like, "All right, well, okay," and he trained me, and he taught me how to sell. He taught me how to get by in like traditional jobs where you don't necessarily know how to act because you're 20.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have experience, but he taught me. And when he left Radio Shack, he's the one that offered me the job at Floor & Decor.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
Because that was his next move. And when he got settled and Radio Shack was going under and the stores were going to close, he recruited me. And he offered me, at the time, a full-time position because it's what I needed at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I really spit on that relationship towards the end because I was in a bad place. And I was bitter. But it's actually kind of on my to-do list to make amends.
Rekindle, yeah.
Yeah, because he was such a kind person, and he was actually the one that would tell me that God wasn't lost. You
Mm-hmm.
were, or you don't find God, you find yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, when you find God was never lost. You were lost.
Mm-hmm.
And you found that relationship again, and that's great. But I think that there are important people that walk into our lives, and they're there to teach us something, and it's up to us to listen or not. They're not going to be there forever.
Mm-hmm.
I took that relationship for granted. It was kind of one of those things where I was like, I'm going to know you forever, whatever.
Yeah, we'll work together. You're here. Yeah.
At some point, he was my immediate boss.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when it went sideways, because he had been such a mentor to me, I expected that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And he himself was going through a hard time at the time. He and his wife had just had their second baby. They already had like 2 teenagers, 1 baby that was like 2, and a newborn.
Mm-hmm.
They were going through it. It was hard. It was a hard point in their marriage, and I don't know the ins and outs of it. Maybe it wasn't hard. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But what I know is I wasn't a friend to him at that time. I wasn't supportive to his needs.
Mm-hmm. Just me.
When he kind of needed me, when he needed me to kind of be his backbone,
mm-hmm.
as co-workers and running the store together, which is what we were doing at the time, I failed him.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was too concentrated on myself, and it was all about me, and it was all about how you're not helping me. I never once sat down to think, wow, maybe he needs you.
The other side of the coin.
Until now that I became a parent, and I'm going through how hard it is to have children, and I can't even imagine having 4.
Yeah, different ages too. Big age gaps.
Big age gaps all over the place. And he was always so happy about it. He always saw them as such a blessing, and he loved his wife. Oh my God, his wife was the hottest woman on the planet to him. She was beautiful, don't get me wrong.
Good.
But he loved his life. He loved his wife. He was reaping a lot of benefits from his hard work for the last 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I was too bitter to be happy for him.
Yeah, you were blinded.
I was so blinded.
Yeah.
And I was in such a dark place. And so looking back, if there's one relationship that I wish that I could fix, other than my relationships with my immediate family, it's him. Because he taught me so much, and he was there for me when my own family wasn't. And not because they didn't want to be, just because I didn't allow them to.
Yeah.
That's probably one thing that I still have to do.
Nice.